So it's officially 2 o'clock, time to start the meeting. And we're going to start with a call to order and pledge of allegiance first.
Foundation under God, indivisible, justice.
We could get a roll call, starting with you, Alan.
Alan, here. Bill Measy here.
Randy Bottleton's here.
Marty Manton fellas here.
Sharon Cordy's here.
Laura Leroy, and online I do see Peggy, so we'll have to have a request for her to be able to attend due to
Okay, so we have a motion
circumstances.
for allowing Peggy Hall and John Grigett to.
We'll have to do another vote when John joins.
Pardon?
John's not on yet.
He's not on.
We'll do it when he joins.
Okay.
I
Just
just
for
motion to allow Peggy to attend chronically.
I second it.
All in favor?
Um,
All right, Peggy, you're good to go. All
Thank you.
right, I only have one public comment. It's from Nancy Straw.
Thank you, Laura, and thanks all of you for taking just a minute. I know that my history with this group isn't real long, and so I don't know all that's gone on. But we have had discussions at the board level at Pelican Preserve Community Association about the future structure of the subcommittees and PPAC. And we've come up with 4 different options, not all fleshed out, but we've started on 4 different options. Our favorite option is to keep PPAC as is and have the subcommittees consider coming under the community association. We of course have different legal counsel, and so we'd have to look at different rules apply, but we think there might be some advantages. Of course, there's other options. I mean, things could remain as is. We could have PPAC become a subcommittee itself under the community association, or PPAC could dissolve. So we would like to ask you to consider holding a special meeting to have a conversation about this, have a presentation, and discuss all the pros and cons of each of those options before you make a decision. The time is a little bit urgent because of the budget preparation right now. So, my request.
Comments?
Yeah, I support the idea of having a meeting. We've thrown these various alternates around a lot. I think it would be worthwhile for us to all consider them so we know what they are, and we choose a way to set this thing up that we all think will work the best for both how the committee itself works, also our relationships with the PPCA and the rest of Pelican Preserve. I would be supportive of Nancy's idea of having a workshop. We could spend half an hour, kicking around the alternatives. And we could involve people who have more knowledge about this kind of thing, frankly, than I do.
Any other
This
comments?
is Peggy. I would want to make sure that we at least have an invitation or consideration for the Board of Supervisors. Would they need to attend with us so that we could get their input on how it might affect their workings with our group?
Well, I would think that certainly representatives of the board.
Well, I mean, the board is looking for a recommendation from PPAC, so I think it would be more beneficial to just have PPAC have the discussion, because that way you guys can talk amongst yourselves. And then we would bring a recommendation forward to the Board of Supervisors, and then my suggestion would be to have a representative from PPAC at the meeting that discussion happens with the Board of Supervisors, and then they can be a representative from PPAC and answer questions on PPAC's behalf. I think you'll be more productive if we handle it that way. Not that the board isn't productive, but you got less people talking, and that way you guys can truly talk amongst yourselves as Pelican for what is or is not, how you feel about it, and then bring that to the board.
So initially, though, the request is to have a workshop among all members of PPAC
Right,
Yes,
regarding
right.
this.
because the
think
board is
that-
looking for a
that's the
recommendation
proposal.
from P-PAC for how you would like to move forward.
I think it's imperative that John Griega be available. So when he is, when he signs in or when we can find out what works for him.
Sure,
I think
set
that's
a date.
what we need to start as far as the
Yeah.
schedule.
and-
Okay,
And yeah,
well, if it's a P-PAC meeting, it would be like it would be, we can invite them to the meeting and put the stuff on the agenda for them to have discussions, but it would be headed up by P-PAC.
And you could ask presenter if they wanted to, but one of you could certainly do it if we have things written.
Yeah, we could
out.
just put it on the agenda. I mean, we could have we put you as an item on the agenda to be
Okay.
discussed, but it would be a P-PAC meeting
Yes.
to discuss those things.
and I think we need certainly need a representative of community association, maybe more than one.
Is your mic on? Is it popped up? There you go.
Nobody from the PPAC knows what's really going on, so we need somebody that's gonna be here, that's gonna give us all that knowledge and information.
You mean from the PPCA or P?
Whoever is coming up with this, these four proposals and that knows the most about it, yeah.
That would be me, probably. I've been digging.
And
into
I
it
think
more than
other,
anyone.
other representatives of the community association, if
Depending on the date, and which of our board members are available, I think our president may even be interested in coming. Because I've talked with her a lot about this, pay for most.
This is Peggy. How quickly do we need to get this on the books?
Well, we would need to have a decision as soon as possible because the intention would be that this would all happen at the end of the fiscal year, which is the end of September. It will need time depending on what happens to draft the new O&M agreement, if there is an O&M agreement, or update the O&M agreement. So I would say like no later than the end of June. So we could bring it to the board in July and give us time to go back and forth and hash out all the details.
I would think a meeting in the next couple of weeks would be,
Right, not
this-
next week. Next
I
week's gonna be
understand.
bad. So yeah, like a week after, anytime after that is good.
And that I will be gone starting Monday. I'll be gone till mid-July about, so
Okay,
I can participate, but we could also have someone else
Mhm.
come.
okay.
yeah, my suggestion would be that it be within the next couple of weeks. We're probably, we're not gonna, I don't think we have to compete with when the board meeting, actually, the next board meeting occurs, which is the
15th.
15th. But
And we have workship on the 13th. So
board
next week is not good for me. I am like final
yeah, yeah.
budget crunch,
My,
so.
my thinking would be, I don't know, the week of,
I think we should wait until John can be
Yeah, wait for
involved
John
and
to be
then
on.
you know that
Well,
he's gonna be here and head it up.
I agree.
yeah, it seems to me, Randy, if we set some tentative dates.
Well, let's just
And
wait for John to be on and we can talk about tentative dates then.
Okay, yeah, if he, is he going to be on?
I don't know if he doesn't show up and if he doesn't come up, join by the end of the meeting, we'll do that before we adjourn.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
all right.
well,
Thank you all.
All right, next is the minutes. Are there any questions or corrections or concerns with the minutes? I just need a motion and a second to approve them then.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as written.
I'll second it.
All
In favor?
I was not here, so I'm not.
Can we open up those minutes and take a quick
Oh,
look
I'm
through
sorry.
them, please? There are some questions as to if things have been changed from a previous,
I did give I gave them to Georgia.
there were some requests to modify.
I don't
previous
have,
ones.
I left my folder on my desk because I left in such a hurry. So I don't have the notes from last month.
I think we could just approve them. Including the,
Would you go back up on that again?
There's one in particular we need to talk
So-
about, and that is the request to have, board of supervisors approve proceeding with, creating a bike lane.
Mhm.
And this morning it was, mentioned that Board of Supervisors has now decided that they wrote some wording in there that, washes your hands of any responsibility. And so I don't know whether we have have authority to do that any longer or not.
Maybe Chelsea knows
Keep
what you're
going
talking,
on.
I'm not aware.
Keep going on this.
The only thing that I know that's in here is it's about the golf carts.
Yes, and
Both
that's,
of
well,
those
that's
are still on.
exactly it. That's exactly it.
Both of those are still on the agenda. Is that right for today, for our discussion today?
Okay.
No.
Nothing about golf carts. on
Nope,
it.
the bike lane is
Oh,
on
the
here.
golf carts. Hmm? The bike lane is though.
Yes.
Yes. So what would you have changed, Randy?
Committee. Here, is
Okay,
what you're
this,
talking about?
all right, let's just take a look at this
I
again.
asked Georgia to go back and
So the,
listen to
the
it.
motion that I made originally was simply to go to the,
Return the
Board of
4-foot outside
Supervisors.
lanes to the board, yep.
But this now seems to, ask us to approve, it's CDD just not having anything to do with golf carts.
And that was a
Any
recommendation of our corporate council and the board of supervisors as well. We've had this discussion before, but we cannot enforce anything with golf carts. The district has no authority to do anything with golf carts. If you guys want to control the colors, the speed, the insurance, whatever, that's an HOA function. That is not a district function. That's not anything we have any teeth or legs to stand on to even remotely try to enforce. And so the recommendation was that, the district is gonna just do like everywhere else where the golf carts and other low-speed vehicles operate on the roadways inside of Pelican Preserve in accordance with all of the current laws, state, local, city. We can't enforce anything,
Yeah.
so there's
Well,
no point for the district to
It's-
be involved
it's-
because we
it's-
can't
it's
enforce
an interesting
anything.
history because of course, to begin with, the district was controlling all of it.
Sure, well, it's a done deal because the resolution's already signed,
Yeah,
so.
the earlier resolutions, the district was controlling,
Right.
but the district has just dropped that idea that they have to control.
Yeah, I think the district is trying to focus more on things that are district property and district, things that the district has control over, and golf carts are not one of those things.
So we could suggest to the PPCA that it may want to take that up, but I'm hearing is that there's nothing that we can do as,
Well, that's-
as PPAC.
That's kind of what, I sort of feel like, our initiative to see about getting bike lane established, which is what most of the people in the community want to do, seems like, the district has taken this opportunity to just kind of say we're washing our hands of this.
Oh, the
So
golf
now we
carts, but
have-
not the bike lanes.
So there's no reason for us to go to you to
No, there's still-
ask
there's-
about the golf carts or this
Well-
type of thing, and we can't say we're gonna dump this on community association. We don't have the authority.
If I recall, Bill Schricker was in here once and said PPCA wants nothing to do with the golf carts. And then, so they want nothing to do with it. The CDD or the district says, we wash our hands of it. So I guess it's our group that figures out what to do.
Well, we can make recommendations. Once again, we can't enforce anything either.
Correct. Yeah, this is Nancy again. Let me just add a little bit of information. We actually have been consulting with our attorney and we've really rewritten the golf cart rules to take away the responsibility that the CDD had previously that was implied, not really couldn't enforce.
Yeah, we
but,
couldn't enforce anything.
But we've rewritten the rules and we're going to do it just for the community association. And we've also included language for low-speed vehicles because that's another issue. We have a lot of them in our community. People still, if they're gonna go on the golf course, they still have to have a golf cart that meets the guidelines that the golf course has. But we will have our own for PPCA, and I think our board's gonna approve that next week because our legal counsel has already weighed in.
So they've done 180 on it then. PPC's done. According-
Yeah,
yeah.
I would say there's been a lot of mixed points of view on whether or not we should do anything.
Yeah,
Because on one hand, people in Pelican Preserve expect a certain amount of control on things. And it's good for us as an association to have a record of insurance in case there is an accident and they damage something that's one of our assets. We need to have that information. So
Okay.
we're just erring on the side of caution right now.
so
And then the
Nancy,
new law is coming into.
so this would include such things as the appearance of the golf carts, as well as whether they need to be registered or how we're gonna control them. Is that right?
The appearance of the golf carts really went out the window a while ago.
Okay, so that's
because
not,
That's not an issue anymore. You can have any color you want. You can have a low-speed
Right,
vehicle
okay.
instead of a golf cart. The insurance, the inspection, the insurance coverage and the stickers will still be, they're still in the proposal.
okay.
We have yet to make sure KW wants to devote the time and energy to that, but we believe so. And we're talking about executing a separate contract with either Wiser or another security company to help us with indicating who's not up to date on their stickers and letting us know so we can take care of that.
Will this include, low-speed vehicles that belong to the golf course, like the backhoe?
No, no, we wouldn't have any
Official.
control over anything at the golf course at all.
They drive on our roads.
I know.
Well, but so does the public. Yeah.
And you could have a vehicle like that according
I'd
to
like
the
to have
new
a backup.
rules. You probably could, Marty.
You're rolling around in a tank.
So it
Yeah.
sounds to me like we just drop it and let the PPCA take this over.
Yeah, we've been working on it since the CDV's action.
Hang on for point.
Jen Lewis with KW. I think what Randy's trying to say is, before they approve these minutes, his motion was only about the recommendation of bicycle lanes. His recommendation was not the second part of it. So I think, is that what I'm understanding about the golf carts?
Yes, I was basically going to the, because it was our assumption that if we're to affect a change on a district asset, that we need to get approval from the Board of Supervisors. Now, this indicates that doesn't matter anymore because they're not gonna, they
No, I think you're
resolve
confusing.
the
I
responsibility
think you're,
for
I think
approval.
you're confusing the two things, because there's, the district still is interested as far as like the bicycle lanes and that portion of it. The district just dissolved itself of dealing anything with golf carts. So the pedestrian, the bike lanes, all of that stuff is still on the table. It's just the golf carts are not.
I think so. The second part where it says, and have golf carts and other low-speed vehicles operate on
they-
public, that, I think that's the part
That
that's.
universal lane, according to the city, is considered mixed usage. We were making um, to the Board of Supervisors was to get a yay or nay in terms of whether we could proceed with having a bicycle lane only and then get the appropriate permitting from the city so that it moved golf carts over to the passenger lanes. Now, what we still don't know is what is the current standard for a bicycle lane? When I'm driving down County Road 82, bicycle lane there, if anybody took a notice, looks a lot wider than it does in Pelican Preserve. So we still don't know what the current standards are. But the point being, that's mixed usage, so you can't just say, we're not gonna do anything with golf carts, because it's a,
Chelsea says a bike lane is 3 feet.
is what?
3 feet wide is a bike lane.
And is there any buffer required as well?
Typing just a minute.
On County Road 82, there was a lane with bicycles. Then there was another space that was probably a foot
That's what I guess.
to an outside lane.
I didn't want to assume. I was going to answer what she said. It depends on the speed limit and if there's curbs or not. So your road is considerably lower speed limit than 82 and there's no curbs. So that makes a difference. So it would be 3 feet inside of Pelican. That's why 82 is different because it's much faster and there's a curb.
Seems to me that we want to get, basically, we want to get the okay of the board to have a bike lane. and the structure of the bike lanes to be determined by exploring with the city.
And whether or not they're good, one put together at all.
Well, we actually are gonna be discussing this in item 7B. So.
Yeah,
And the main motivation for asking for that is not to have a repeat of what happened in the past. Where the icons were painted
Mhm.
and then the district told us they had to take them off.
Right, no, I understand. But we have that, the bike lane improvements are as part of item 7B. Don't have the.
So are we gonna approve these minutes as they stand?
You already
I thought
did.
We already did.
There, you already
Oh,
voted,
sorry, yeah.
so. Oh, this is T. So this is the partial financials. This is just a list of all of the invoices that have been paid for the whole year. It's not just for May
yeah, are we into the financial report now?
or April.
Okay.
Yeah,
So we're doing the financial report. I mean, this report that that we received, to my mind, is almost useless.
I
It's-
agree.
It's just a whole bunch of numbers. And what we have to do is we have to come up with a format that presents the numbers in a way that we can understand them and discuss them
Yeah, I don't know why
somewhat intelligently.
I don't know why this one is in here, Phil. This shouldn't be in here. This is not what I would present to you. This is not financials. So,
Alan had come up with a report format that I think was pretty good, that gave us basic information about how much we were spending,
Yep.
where we were spending it in a format that we could use. And my suggestion is we don't have such a thing this month, but that we ask that it be put together in that format for future financial reports.
minute. Trying to get to the folder. This is an activity report. This is not financials.
Yeah. Yeah, that report is worthless.
I agree. All right, so these are the actual district financials. So you guys are up here.
Okay.
Shrink it down just a little bit so I can fit a little more on the page. Okay, so here's your balance sheet. So your Pelican, you're here. We don't usually keep much in your checking account. We pretty much just balance, move enough to cover and pay the bills. So don't freak out that that's low. Don't normally carry a balance in it. But your money market account here, you can see has $5.5 million in it. And then down here are your reserves. So you're at, this is as of the end of April. I'll have the May financials like in a couple of days. This is 2.8 million in your regular reserves, 100,000 in emergency, 90 in the pools, and then 2.36 in your unassigned. So altogether you have $5.4 million in reserves. All right, so let me get down to.
So from this report, can you tell us what the current reserve?
Yeah.
Is
That was it,
balance sheet?
5.4,
5.4 million.
5.4 million. Okay, so here is your.
Can we see the expenditure, the
That-
bottom expenditure line?
What I'm bringing up right now. You want to see the bottom? I can show you. Okay, so like here is, those were all the operational expenses at the top that I just blew through, which is the normal thing. So here's your landscape. So I mean, year to date is the second column. So here's where you're at for landscaping. Your waterway management. Best one somewhere. No, I didn't. That's just security. I'll make words, safety and security. That's not on there yet. I've been working with the budget, so I'm used to seeing the
Let's
three
go
chunks.
to the bottom. Can you get to the bottom line?
Yeah. So you're 1.6 million year to date.
I'd like to request if Ellen would be willing.
I'm not gonna ask Alan to do it. The financials are my responsibility. I'll make sure that you have something that's more
Okay,
repeatable
but-
next time.
Okay, but Can you give us a format? Can you suggest a format?
Well, I have the format, but it's Laura's gonna have to figure out what format she wants to use, I assume.
Everything has changed, so yeah, with the new
Yeah.
system.
Well, if we can get these in advance, then at least we could.
I mean, these are the
intelligent-
official district financials, so like you'll get these.
I do have a question about the capital reserves. Do
Uh-huh.
we have the same restrictions for these that we do in normal situations, that money can only be spent on capital projects?
Correct. The unassigned is the one that you can spend on whatever you'd like. If they have a specific name next to them, like the ponds one is only ponds, and then the emergency is supposed to be for emergencies, and then this next fiscal year, we'll have a landscape one after the end of the year to transfer those funds into, so that's only for landscaping. But the unrestricted is you can spend on whatever you'd like.
When you say whatever capital projects.
No,
On
there's a
anything.
capital reserve, which you can only spend on capital projects. But you have an unassigned reserves,
The unassigned.
which means it's not assigned to anything, so you can spend it anywhere you
On
want.
anywhere.
Yes.
And the 5.5 million is just simply like in a
It's in a-
savings account
yeah.
we can use any way we want to, or is
Yeah.
that does that require board approval?
No, that's your money. So I mean, if it's a large project, it would have to go in front of the board. But if you want to spend the money, it's Pelican's money. So it's been collected
interesting.
underneath your fund and
But
it's
it
your money
isn't-
to spend
it-
on things in Pelican.
It isn't 5.5 million. About half of it is the unassigned.
Well, I said, no,
The other,
no. She said that there's 5.5 million. In, can you go back? 5.5 in the money market account.
yeah, but that's where
But
we've got. it
That's where the
planned.
money is sitting. So
But-
down here is
but
what
it's
you have to
the
pay attention
unassigned piece
to.
is 2.4 million.
Yeah, it's 2.35 for
The-
unassigned
the
and
other-
2.9.
The others are capital reserves.
Right.
You
So
know,
you have two,
it seems that we have no way to keep track of projects that we have tried to get into the works and have approved. And then the end of the fiscal year comes over and those dollars roll over.
Yeah, I
And we
brought that
got
up.
two
a
things
couple
on the
meetings
agenda
ago.
today that well, at least one of them that we've talked about where we had a deposit put down to try to avoid that last year through an O&M agreement. But then we can't get the project done, or we can't get the materials or something, and we never know. It just rolls over
it
into
happens
it.
to us as well. It just rolls into the next year and then we just use those dollars to pay it off when the project is
I-
The
finished.
project is-
I'm still just confused. You're not saying that the money market account is split up between the reserves.
Yes.
Yes.
That's where all the money is
That's
actually
exactly
held.
What we're saying, that's. what-
These dollars down here are what makes up
That
the money market. That's
That's-
just the
that's-
holding pot for them.
That's the 5.5 million.
Okay, so then when we spend the unassigned reserves, then we considerably lower
Yes.
Yes.
our money market
Yes.
account.
Yeah, right.
Okay. I'm trying to, okay.
Laura, this is Peggy. At some point we had talked about being able to look at our unassigned reserves and know that we had tapped like a certain amount for a project, which we had said we're going to take that from unassigned reserves. Are you then moving it into the other people's budget, like safety and security or landscape or ponds?
Well, I
Or
know that
do-
there's a move that happened in May for the landscaping side of it that doesn't reflect in these financials because it's from April. So there was like $250,000 that you approved to move from
Right.
that line over. So that'll show in May.
Okay, but do we have a way of knowing when we've already assigned per se something out of the unassigned reserve, unassigned capital?
I will run a report for next month to show a
Okay.
history of what all came out of that and where it went.
All right, that's what we need. Thank you.
What do you mean?
How about, is there anything in the works that hasn't been,
Not if,
Take money
anything
out
that
of
you've asked me to move has been moved.
has been moved?
Yes.
And I assume that landscape, the 250,000 for landscape is one of the items, it's one of those items, is that right?
What do you, I'm not, yeah, it'll show up in that list.
Yes,
Yes.
okay. And it will then be an assigned reserve assigned to landscaping
It's not a reserve, it's assigned to a line item
Oh, it's
under
just a
other
line item.
expenses.
Okay.
It gets moved to an
because
expense.
it's operational, not.
Correct,
Okay.
because you can't pay bills from reserves.
Yeah.
They need to be moved from reserves to the expense line.
Fine.
And that was accomplished One meeting ago, wasn't it?
Yeah, but that was in
So they
May.
approved.
So these are April financials. It happened in May, so you'll see it in the May financials.
Sorry.
Yes.
Sorry.
Well, this is much more understandable than. Move along here.
Any other questions, comments?
Can we make this an attachment to our current agenda? So that it'll be reflected that this is what we discussed?
We have to amend the agenda. The district financials are in the Board of Supervisors pack too, so for April, I mean, we can, but we have to amend the agenda and repost it. Yeah, I wish it was easier, sorry. It'll be in the minutes. It'll be in the minutes that it was discussed.
Okay.
Chelsea, are you available to talk about, oh wait,
Danny's on the line.
okay. Oh, that's who that is. Okay. Oh, I see him there. I saw a TD and I didn't know who that was, but now I see Danny. All right, let me go back to here. All right, Danny Nelson is on the line from Tetra Tech. He can answer your questions regarding these two task authorizations.
Hey,
Start
everybody.
with Pond Bank.
We start with the pond bank. it
Yep,
seems to
Pond
me.
Bank first, please.
Peggy, can you give us a little background on this one? Just bring us back up to speed.
Yeah, so Pelican has actually done an evaluation, and essentially what they've asked is for our help to move forward with implementing. To do that, what we're actually recommending is for us to go out, walk the lakes ourselves, to review what Pelican has done, and then come up with a recommendation with options of methods of restoration and estimated costs, and prepare a report so that PPAC can then make a recommendation on how to move forward. So ultimately, you'll move into a design phase and then a construction phase. But this takes a step back and has us look at what options there are essentially, and methods of repair, and then to make a recommendation. There's a wide range, and as I think most of you know, in Greater Gateway, they've been using a reinforcement material along with rock. Pelican is actually, you've been a little bit more on the front of testing out alternatives, so you actually have a few different methods that have been done in a couple of your ponds. So rather than just moving forward with what's become the norm and the standard, what we were asked is to review alternatives and then come back with what we believe is for your case, for your exact issues, to come back with alternatives to present so you can make a recommendation. So that's what this task authorization does.
Danny, this is Peggy. So just to be clear, you are only looking at the ponds that we identified in our initial report as needing further assessment?
Yes, so I believe that the answer is yes. So the ones specifically are what we list. They're on that screen.
Right.
So yeah, those are the specific ones, and I haven't personally put my eyes on that report, but as I understand, that's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Peggy, does the work group have any other comments or about this?
No, this would be the next logical step for our work. So this would be what I would recommend that we move forward with.
$19,000 looks reasonable. What charge will be for this evaluation? Am I correct about that? 19,430,
Not to exceed.
not to exceed.
So if that's the case, then I'd like to make a motion that we approve this task authorization not to exceed the 19,430 and assign it to Tetra Tech.
Second that.
Okay.
So
No further discussion.
to be clear, this is Chelsea. Staff will coordinate with Tetra Tech and your ponds subcommittee on the reporting from Tetra Tech.
Correct. And can we also further assign it to Jim Latham as our contact, as he's the one that did our initial report?
I don't know who that is, but sure.
Good
He's
job.
a resident in Pelican who did the initial pond report that we shared with Tetra Tech to develop this task authorization.
Sure. Whoever from the ponds committee, whoever they want to designate as the representative, absolutely.
Okay, my next question is, where is this gonna be paid from? This is within my spending authority, so I can approve, I can issue the purchase order, but I need to know which line item you'd like to come off of.
In that this was not something that we had initially budgeted in our ponds budget, we'd request this comes from the unassigned reserves.
Do you want me just to transfer $20,000 then to unassigned reserves?
That's fine.
And then
Yes.
where would you like me to charge it against? Probably pond bank improvements.
Pond bank improvements, correct.
Okay.
But that brings up a good point. Are there planned pond bank improvements for this year, or instead of transferring that money, can you just use that money that's already
25
existing?
that's there, yeah.
Okay, so we do have 25,000 there.
We could
shoot,
just use that for now and then transfer later if you need it.
Mhm.
yes, let's move
Send
with
it back.
that. Let's do that. So reverse my statement.
Okay, so I will charge the Tetra Tech task authorization for pond bank evaluations for the not to exceed 19,000, whatever it was, against the pond bank improvements line item.
Correct.
All right,
Okay.
Can we vote on the item?
you don't need to, but you can if you want to.
We've approved the expenditure, Maureen,
Yeah.
seems to me, so probably.
As long as you're all in agreement that you're good with it, you already approved the
Yep.
task authorization, where to charge it is just a necessary evil. All right, next we have the bike lane improvements.
So this one is a little bit more challenging, I'll say, in that this one, as we haven't scoped before you, takes the project through design and ultimately the construction phase. The first thing that needs to be done is to, we have to start somewhere. So we're not proposing to go out there and do surveying. We're proposing to use existing survey, and that we would go out and take some field measurements at various locations, and also then to document the markings and the signage that's there so that we can properly design for what needs to meet the requirements in accordance with the city's requirements for signage, as well as recommended engineering practice. So I think there had been discussion about, with this, also scaling it back to just performing task one so that we could then get a better understanding before moving forward with design. We're good either way, but we certainly understand if that's the direction of the board. There's probably a little bit more work than what we actually have in task one to come back, and do recommendations for that. So I'm at whatever you guys want to do. I'm at y'all's recommendation.
You go up to the
Ask one.
the cost.
Down to the cost.
Yeah, right there. So then you're saying just the field inspection, we could do just the field inspection and then go on to the other three things?
Yeah, and if we did that, what I'd say is it's probably going to be a little bit, I would want to either revise this and just come back, or just to say, a not to exceed of, it would probably, I'd need a couple more $1,000s to come back with a recommendation. So if we were, the way this is scoped is we would basically take that data and we would move straight forward to design. If we want to take a step back and then come back to you guys with just a small, you wouldn't call it a report, maybe a memo, and then some costs, I'd need a little bit more time in there to do that. So it'd probably be, if I were to say $6,500 for that task one, then we could come back, we'd have a better idea. And then we could also better quantify what the design effort would be too. So there's a possibility that could go down. Otherwise, like I said, if you want to move straight forward, we could certainly do that. Like Laura said on the past, these are all not to exceed. But if we were to just authorize task one, I don't believe the 4,200, if we were to do that and then bring it back to you, which I think is the right way of doing it, to be honest, if I were to make a recommendation, that's what it would be to just authorize task one to increase that with bringing back a memo and recommendation with estimated cost to you for not to exceed of like $6,500.
So Danny, if they approve that, will you, can you just submit a revised task authorization to us? And then since they already verbally approve it, we can sign off and I'll get you the PO. If that's what they wanna
Absolutely.
do.
Yeah, I'll just simply, what I'll do is I'll keep this task authorization number but it will just be for the item. And then in the future, it would be a different task authorization for the remainder.
Okay.
Now, am I understanding this correctly? So this only gets us to the point where we're ready to start painting the lines, let's say we come up with a 3-foot wide bike lane? Or does this just get us to the point where this does not cover the actual physical labor of putting those lines down? Is that right?
Right. This
Or
is
the permitting.
just, that's correct. This would just be the professional services to get through that process. And I think if we were to go through that first task, we might find that there might be some economies that we can bring back on this through the professional side.
So if I can chime in real quick.
Yes.
Sure. Yeah, let's go ahead, Chelsea.
So Danny and Stephen and I had a conversation about this task authorization. And because there are just so many unknown variables, I think it would be best from a staff recommendation that you guys authorize the field inspection first, because they have to get out there. They not only review the bike lane markings, but what appropriate signage is required. And then, I mean, are there existing bike lane markings out there? If so, what were they painted? Were they thermoplastic? What does anything need to come up before we put new down? There's the permitting aspect of it. And then, so once they do that due diligence, I feel like we'll have a better idea of the scope of what this project would entail.
Well, Dean Groves had requested that this be shown to safety and security before it was presented to PPAC. And I understand that we couldn't wait for that to happen, but I suggest that if some kind of re-proposal is going to be done in terms of an inspection, that be done so that it could be discussed at the next safety and security meeting, which is on the 26th. And then we go from there.
And Dean is online. So, so if Danny, if you want to rewrite the task authorization, we can present it to the Safety and Security Subcommittee at their meeting at the end of June and then get an answer from PPAC in July.
Yeah, that sounds good. There's also a possibility, and we've done this on, I believe we did it for restriping and possibly for the overlay on Pelican a few years ago, where we used a piggyback method. We piggyback off of I think in that case, Lee County's has a library of contractors. So we use their piggyback, and that actually saved us, some of the services here of going through the bidding. And then it could also lessen down the design effort because you're just then working with a contractor more closely. So it can cut down some of these costs. I'm not saying that's the way to go. I'm just saying there may be some opportunities once we get through that first phase. So yes, Laura, I should be able to get that to you this afternoon or in the morning revised.
Okay. Is that okay with you guys? We just have them revise it to reflect just the one field inspection line at the recommendation of staff and the engineer, and then take that to safety and security and then back here next month.
That's what you're suggesting, Randy, that we
Yeah,
do that
I want,
and then leave the rest of it.
Until after the
Safety
inspection.
and
yeah, I
security.
want to make sure that Dean has enough, some more
Okay.
time to look at that original and then to consider it, because this proposal, just, I don't even know what to say about it.
We have a budget line item for this.
I think it would fall under the road improvements.
We generally put it under roads. or
Road and
with the
sidewalk
idea that
maintenance
we're
is where we
gonna-
would
yeah.
put it.
So we
Put
got
under
plenty of money.
roads.
Yes.
We're already
So we should approve.
over
task-
budget. We're already over budget on that.
we Should
Yeah,
approve
I-
task.
we never anticipated any, the cost, anywhere near that. So, you know, it's one thing to have money in the budget, it's another one to.
But you, I mean, you could
spend
decide to have the inspection done this fiscal year and then just put that in your budget for next year and then do it after October.
Yep.
So. And then then it wouldn't be an issue for this year.
Yeah, but it's almost over anyway.
That's it.
I move that we authorize the necessary engineering study for amount not to exceed $5,500.
It was 65.
Hmm?
6,500.
We said 65.
No, he said 65. He needs another couple $1,000s if we're
Oh, I
not
thought
gonna
he
do
said
it the way it
55.
was. No, it's
That's
65.
what I hear.
So-
Not to
That's-
exceed 6,500.
But that's going to be presented.
The safety and
to
security
safety and
for,
Security? Okay.
Before we
them to see-
authorize any expenditure.
Right.
Okay, then I will not, I will.
what you're authorizing is for Tetra Tech to do another, to revise this task authorization to only have the field inspection line on it at a not to exceed amount of $6,500. Present it to the safety and security work group at their, or subcommittee at their meeting on the 26th, and then it'll come back in front of PPAC at your July meeting.
I don't think we need a motion for that. I think we can just direct.
Okay,
direct
so
it
Danny, you're good with that?
To be done.
I'm good. I'm gonna work on it
Does
right
Dean
now.
wanna Make any kind of comment on that?
Dean, do you have any comment?
Thank you. I am curious if, does this also include the section of Prado Boulevard for establishing a bike lanes along that section of roadway?
Yeah, so Pelican Preserve, Cypress Grove, and Prado.
Okay, because previous discussions about refreshing pavement markings, which this could have been viewed as being piggybacked onto, did not include Prado Boulevard.
Yep, Prado's in there.
It strikes me, what's important for us to understand is really what are the requirements of the city of Fort Myers for bike lanes for this functional classification of roadway. I would think it would be hard pressed to consider expanding the footprint of either barrel of the boulevards to increase the width for a bike lane. So you're essentially constrained by a 4 foot area from the edge line, the white edge line, to the gutter. It feels that the design fee as presented is pretty strong, given the limitations on what kind of work, what kind of effort really is involved with uh, developing the bike lane in accordance with criteria for the city. But we haven't had a chance to really look at this, and we will look at it as part of safety and security.
Don?
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm just gonna ask if we can just do the budget thing last, and then, because that'll give us more time without, I wanna make sure the people who came to give their reports can do those first, and then when they're done, just like flip flop the budget after those things. That's okay? And then we can concentrate on that without having to worry about not having them be able to present their part of the budget. It should be a relatively quick conversation, but I wanna make sure that we can let the people who came, if that's, okay, you're in charge, so I'm just asking.
sure.
Okay, okay. So then we move next to the subcommittee updates, which there are none on the agenda. But there are some items under the member items and report. So the correction of the streetlight on Cypress Grove and Pelican Preserve Boulevard, and then the pavement painting refresher project. Giving those, I don't know who's giving updates.
Yes, and we have a representative from West Coast here, so I would like to be able to get to those.
Yeah, let's do those
Let's-
now,
let's
and
do
then we'll
those now.
we'll do the budget last. We'll
Alright.
do everything and then do the budget last before we adjourn.
Okay, so the first item on there, we have the correction of the street light on Cypress Grove and Pelican Preserve. So I was notified of the day that the West Coast was going to be installing the street light that we ordered a year ago. Actually, in July of last year, I signed it. And when I arrived and I took some pictures and whatever, I noticed that the street light that we got was not what we ordered. It was one that was significantly taller and mimicked the streetlights that were on Cypress Grove. So the initial one was to be a two globe lamp or street light, similar to the ones that are around the Benito Pelican Preserve, the big open intersection and with the club. We have those in a number of different places. We tried to push this through quickly last year on an O&M agreement so that we would have so that we wouldn't run out of time and money for the budget. So 50% was put down on this, something that we could do in the O&M agreement, but the district could not. Subsequently, what I see is another purchase order, and I was told that the order, when I came there, I was told the order was changed. Nobody had ever come to this committee to talk about changing the order. However, I see a purchase order here and Keith Riddle's name on it for, a new light pole. Doesn't give any of the specifics about that, but with the same pricing on it. So we're going to have a couple of options here, and Jennifer from West Coast has kindly agreed to join us here and help us resolve
Hello, I'm
this
Jennifer,
issue.
West Coast Electrical and Lighting. I've come to try and help resolve the issue, try to find a solution to the issue. One of them is that pole is significantly taller. Yes, it does mimic the street lighting itself. One, I would like to see Gateway's lighting array of what they expect that lighting to be in that intersection. So they should have a photometrics of the lighting that they deem they need in that area. The two-headed light pole that initially was quoted, the only thing that I see, because this is what I do, this is my expertise, this is what I do all day. Street lighting. If you have a median, if you want the two heads there, we could put the two heads there. The problem that I'm gonna see that's gonna come about is you have a neighbor that sits right at the corner. The first thing I'm gonna do is get a call, Jennifer, the light's too bright. Can you shade the fixture? Can you put a shield? Can you do something to alleviate the light from shining into the house? That's your first problem, because you got two heads, it's gonna be a magnificent amount of light there. The single-headed light is gonna put off the same amount of light. You wouldn't think this, but this single-headed light is gonna put off the same amount of light that those two heads are gonna put off. So I would like to know what you want in that area as far as lighting. One, I don't want to put too much lighting for the neighbor. I don't want to be too bright. Two, I could put you a pole there that can have two heads, but not as bright. It will be similar, very similar to the pole that's double-headed at the entrance of your community. It'll be very similar to that pole. Then I have the alternative of, or we could do this if you don't want to wait, because for me to do that, it's also going to take me 16 weeks to get that pole. Or we can do this option. It's not what I prefer to do, but it's a suggestion. I can take the double-headed pole at the front of the entrance in place and put that in the median there, and take that single-headed pole and put in the median at the entrance. Then you have exactly what has been quoted. But I prefer to know exactly what is wanted as far as lighting, so you don't have too much. You just have the right amount, but everybody is going to be happy with the outcome.
Jennifer,
Maybe I could give a little background on this.
Mhm.
Bob Geppert had initiated a study with Tetra Tech,
Mhm.
and they gave us a study that recommended three new 26-foot tall lights at different points of that intersection. Now, the feeling was that first of all, we're worried about unintended consequences, like the neighborhood in Avila with maybe 5 customer or houses now are going to have a bright light in their back
Correct.
bedroom. So we wanted to have something that gave it in the, illumination there.
Mhm.
um, And still looked similar to the community. So the double light, which is a lower,
Mhm.
shorter one, is what the safety and security specifically wanted to do.
Cause
So
we're,
that's what we ordered, and there was no, we still don't understand why it was changed, but there's a very specific reason why this committee ordered that type of light.
and I can understand that, but from a lighting expertise, if I was to go to that intersection, I have 3 lights there that project a significant amount of light, an adequate amount of light in that intersection. So if you come to me and say, well, I want to add additional 3 lighting there, that's an extremist amount of light there. You're going to blind the person in the corner. Sure, you're going to give that whole intersection a lot of light, but that's overkill for that intersection, honestly. If you did a photometrics, that would tell you how much lighting is there and really how much lighting you really need. You really only need a single post in that median to put off enough light that's going to suffice the area with the lighting that you already have around. To put too much lighting there, it really would be overkill, honestly. Um,
So what we got back from Tetra Tech
mhm.
was a photo, was
I
this
would-
type of lighting study, and let me finish. The reason we chose this was when it was less lighting than was recommended, because we didn't want to overdo it.
Mhm.
Subsequently, we had traffic studies that were done in a period of over 3 months,
Mhm.
and some of them were September, October, and November, so they're fairly busy times of the year.
Mhm.
And many of the times, we would have only 3 vehicles that, on average, that would go in that area from 7 p.m. in the evening to 7 a.m. in the next morning. So this is a kind of a quiet neighborhood.
Mhm.
And we can clearly say that we could use more illumination there. It's harder to suggest and make an argument that there's a significant safety issue.
Right.
So all these things were talked out among the group and so forth. So there's a good reason why we
Mhm.
ordered it the way we did.
And I believe there's always a reason for everything. You always have a reason for everything that you want to do. So what I would do is, honestly, the owner of the company, this is what he does. He does photometrics every day. He can do it with his eyes closed. If I could see the photometrics and a layout that Tetra has so that I can compare that lighting, I can better understand where they're coming from. Right now, I don't understand where they're coming from the lighting that I can see on the ground. So if I could see that and I could put my own photometrics on it, I can understand where they're coming from. The lower light, I can put a 2-headed light fixture there. It goes back to, that's the same amount of light as with that single head. So it's going to be just as bright as that single headed fixture, because I'm putting the same lamp in as you have in the street light. There's no difference in the light. You have 2 heads that's going to have the same light as your street light. There's no difference in the lamp. It's the same lamp. This time in the median with 2 lamps of the same, it's going to be brighter. So you'll have to shield it from the neighbor, which is fine. We can do, because we do throughout the community. They'll call up and say, Jennifer, this neighbor says it's too bright. Can you go shade that fixture? We do it. We'll do it. It's what we do. So I really just want to know what I can do to solve this and make everybody happy and better.
Jennifer, I'm having trouble understanding. You're saying the one-headed light provides as much illumination
Well, because-
as the 2.
Because it's the same. Here's the thing.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put the thing is 2 heads, those 2 heads
Yeah.
have the same lamp
Yes.
as one single head does on the street. So that one single head puts off a really significant amount of light on the ground. So if I was to put 2 of those lamps on one post, that's double the amount of light in the area.
That's what I wanted to understand.
Yes.
Versus the recommendation of having 3 26-foot tall ones
Mm-hmm.
by Tetra Tech. So the idea was that was overkill. And the other thing was it was a cost estimate of $62,000 from Tetra Tech.
Mhm.
So when we ordered this one, it's $27,000 for a very specific reason. We didn't want full illumination that was recommended by Tetra Tech study. We didn't want to spend that much money. So and I still don't understand who changed our order and didn't let us know until this thing was delivered. I'm
And
quite
our-
cheesed off about that.
I
So
can
the
understand your
idea-
frustration on
what
that.
we'd like to know today,
Mhm.
about the double lamp that you're talking about. The
Mhm.
double head one that's similar to ones we currently have in the community,
Mhm.
and how long that would take to get delivered.
She's recommending a single minute.
So here, if we want the double head, this is what I can do. I can offer a quick ship pole that'll get here faster than the pole that you currently have on site, which is fluted and has a little design in it. This won't be fluted like that and it won't have a little design. It'll just be a flat pole. When you look at it, it'll just be a solid flat black pole. That's a quick ship pole. I can get it in 3 weeks. If you want me to go that route, I can go that route, get the pole here fast and get you the 2 heads. Or I have to wait on the pole and the 2 heads to come in at the same time, which that pole to match throughout the community is going to take me 16 weeks to get.
And you have no pictures for us to take a look at.
It's the same picture that you see on that piece of paper initially
Okay,
of those fixtures.
but I thought I heard 4 weeks. This
So
is a
there's
picture of-
there's 2 difference on the pole. It's the pole initially. I can get a quick ship pole that won't match the poles throughout the neighborhood. It'll be a solid black, flat black pole. In a quick ship, it's 4 weeks I can get. But if you want a pole to match an existing pole within the community, that pole is 16 weeks out. So I have a choice of a flat black pole or a design pole that's similar throughout the community. The difference is lead times.
So the difference is in the pole and not in the lamps that we're
Correct.
seeing here.
So those poles,
Mhm.
either one, the quick ship or the 16 weeker, would have two lamps that would not.
I'll
shine.
put the double head on there, yes.
Okay, there we go. Thank you.
Hey, look for it.
So would it have the same illumination as the,
Those lamps are gonna be the same lamps that I have inside your streetlights.
There it is.
So it is gonna be bright at the corner. It will be bright right there in the median.
and will shine into the person's house?
Can I tell you that most likely, yes, it will shine into the home, but that would probably have to be something that we take up when we install it, and then they say, hey, it's too bright for me. Then at that point,
Is significantly shorter than the one that was delivered. So this may be 20 feet, maybe less. The other was had to be 26 feet or so. So
I think we need to wait 16 weeks and order a pole that matches.
Get the one that we want.
I mean, we waited this long. I don't think,
Yeah.
Exactly.
I don't think we
It's
should.
been a year. Yeah, it was signed July 14th.
mhm. And honestly, when Scott and Chris was here, I didn't go through boards. I did not go through a chain of command aside from the management company. So I don't know if something happened in the midst of the transitions, because there was transitions on both sides. I'm not too sure. So can I apologize from West Coast for the mishap that's happened and the frustration? Absolutely. All I can do is try to do my best to make it better, to do what I need to do on our part to fix the issue.
So
Let's get the fancy pole.
make a motion on that.
I'll make a motion to get the fancy pole and wait the 16 weeks.
I
Do we have
second.
a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Well, I think you should have some discussion here. You're gonna make a comment?
Just have a question that might be, just the question is, and I'm naive about electronics, but Tetra Tech, it seems, perhaps may have been remiss in their study if they didn't talk about the illumination levels from the single versus the double and look at the lines of directness to that house. And would it pay to go back to them and say, hey,
CC, this study was initiated by Bob Geppert. So we followed up afterwards because others had been talking about the lighting. But our discussions with Tetra Tech basically were this. When we asked about other options and so forth, well, they had additional committee meetings and no, they stood by their design. Their job was done. They did what Bob Geppert asked them to do. And safety and security after the fact was looking at this and saying, no, we don't want to spend $62,000.
Just thought it was worth asking.
Yeah, I guess that's what bothers me, and this is kind of new to me, what you're talking about here, but if the intersection, was the intersection that dark that they absolutely had to have some more lighting? Apparently Bob Gephardt thought it was, but then you get Tetra Tech out there and they overkill it. They overkill it. I mean, completely different than what this lady here is telling us here. And so maybe what it would have required is maybe a second opinion or something before, I agree with you, $62,000 to put that in there, especially if you're not having problems in that intersection, and I'm not sure if they were not.
And there were a lot of people who suggested that it was kind of dark. But
Okay,
once again, we have to measure, we have to kind of make value judgment. Is it a true safety issue? Well, yeah, it could be for pedestrians or someone else, but if we don't have very much traffic, we didn't think it was justified to spend $62,000 and do this full explanation. Dean Grove has had a lot of experience with this type of thing, and he came up with a recommendation for this double light. He's done a lot of these studies himself.
yeah, well,
So the issue that we have here today is that we put in an order after spending a lot of time in discussion on this, paid 50% down on it, and then we get the wrong light and we don't know about it until I go to the day they're putting it in. And if I hadn't been there that day, who knows what, we'd have a street light up there, not the one that we ordered. And would we get it fixed? I don't know.
Randy-
Suggest we are where we are. So worrying about the screw up on the order is irrelevant at this point. We need to decide is how we go forward from here. And we have a motion on the table for this $27,000 lamp.
is that the total cost, 27,550? I mean, nothing, and we've already paid 50% of it?
We paid a 50% down.
And and that
Or
includes installation.
13,000, I think.
Okay.
Permitting and installation.
Okay,
This paper is actually from the purchase order. So this is the document that I used to create the purchase order.
and you said that if
I thought
if
this
the
original
resident
purchase
complains
order was
about the
done by-
extra light, that
by
is something you can
capital.
do about.
No.
All right.
Sorry,
They
because
sent
it's
it
too
to you?
much. Yeah, it's outside their spending
Yes,
threshold.
Let's go forward with the vote unless we.
Do you want to stay the
Okay,
course
so-
is what I hear. You want the
chairperson.
light that was originally ordered.
We want
We've already paid for half of it. You're willing to wait the 16 weeks to get what you originally asked for.
Yes, so we have the
That
double,
was the motion.
we have that post and a similar type of double.
And I will stay in contact with Jen, follow up with her. Every chance I get a follow-up, I will send her a follow-up.
And please keep Andrew in the loop. That who Andrew Johnston. He's our.
Do
public
I have
works-
his info?
Yeah, he's our new public works director.
Okay.
In favor of the motion.
Go ahead, Randy. I mean, call.
Yeah. And all in favor?
Aye, yes.
Aye.
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 All right.
Thank you
6-0.
for coming, Jennifer.
You're welcome.
All right.
Next.
Next we have the pavement refresher.
Yes. The next item on the agenda was a recommendation from Safety and Security that this committee consider redoing the stripes on our roads as they're faded. it's basically just a maintenance issue. But, and DG Pavements was the one that was being recommended. If we can go a little bit further down, there's a kind of a breakout, I think, of,
Did you want this or is there something further
um,
right here? It says the
40,541.
40,000.
yeah, and that's not the one I was, well, it talks about, there's different segments there are two different segments in terms of, all right, here we go. Yeah, did you?
Did
click
you want
on-
this?
Did you click on the agenda for that?
No, I.
Do you need me to
scrolled
open, you
down
want me to open
Alright.
these up? So you want me to open up the
Okay.
actual?
Can you scroll down to DG, Laura, please?
Maybe?
There you go.
Okay, so this, one of the suggestions in this was that, in the second portion, Pelican Preserve to tree line, on the bottom here, and in the first one, you'll see it says all striping to include glass beads for better reflectivity. That was an important, part from Safety and Security's recommendation. It was included in this bid. It's not mentioned anywhere in the other two bids. So while they're pretty close, EG had also suggested they could, if it was paint only, it'd be $33,000. But they have it,
Oh, that's a
and
skull,
once again, the
sorry.
recommendation is to do it all at the same time, but you can see, if you go back,
Oh, I was gonna scroll on the other ones to show that it
yeah,
wasn't
right,
there.
right here. This could be done in altogether, or it could be done in two steps. One this year, one the next year, if it was felt that that was, the best way to do it. But you can see they've broken out, initially Cypress Grove to Carina, Pelican Preserve, all the way to Palazzo.
Do you have enough money in the budget line item?
You'd have to transfer. I think there was a part of the,
Is there
Agenda, yeah.
interplay between this and the painting that we're gonna have to do if we change the bike lane?
I'm kind of glad you mentioned that, because we don't know anything about the bike lane. But, this would include the lane that comes to, that currently exists. And it would go down very close to the roundabout. That is another issue in terms of signage and painting that needs to be done at that, when we get to that point.
I think what, Phil, what you're getting to is, would it be worth waiting until we have Tetra Tech go out and evaluate where those bike lanes are before we do this, so that they don't do it, and then we find out that they weren't done right or in the right place, and then we need to
That's
redo them.
That's exactly where. I'm
I
coming
figured that's
from.
where you were getting at.
Yeah. Seems to me we ought to wait for the Tetra Tech.
I'd like to make a motion to postpone this item. Revisit it
Can
another.
can we have some discussion before the motions are made here?
Well, you can have discussion after.
Okay.
As long as you just have to do it before you vote.
I second the motion.
The, Randy, I've noticed that there's all sorts of these, it talks about beads or something, glass beads for better reflecting. But then I've noticed all these center, reflectors on the road. A good share of those are missing too. And so is that part of it that they would fix, or can you
Well, further
you
down,
can actually
there's-
save $7,000 if you don't do the beads and then replace those. So I don't know.
Well, if we go, and I think we're gonna need to get Dean's to, everything on this. Further down, there is, a quotation on thermoplastic, which adds significantly to the cost of this. Some of it is further down
This
here.
one,
Laura, I can get to it.
this is Atlantic.
You didn't get much from the other two companies.
Your thermoplastic and
Um,
here, yep,
there's-
thermoplastic.
Well, there's a point in there where they talk about the thermoplastic. Can we get further?
Right here.
Okay, so
Oh, this is to take it
additional-
off.
Additional thermoplastic would be another $30,000. for those types of things, and or there could be a cost for removing the ones that are currently there.
The
It is-
$29,000 is to remove the existing thermoplastic.
Okay, and then is Dean still on the line?
Yeah,
Yes.
I'm still here.
Do you have a comment about that in terms of the existing thermoplastic and if that needs to be removed?
Um, the thermoplastic lines make sense when you have fresh pavement, new pavement. And it's my impression that it's going to be a while before we get a lot of new pavement in Pelican Preserve. So from that perspective, I would not recommend removing the existing thermoplastic and replacing the lines with thermoplastic because the cost is pretty significant. If we're looking at about $40,000 roughly for paint that has the glass beads in it, you'd be looking to spend $95,000 to $100,000 to remove the existing thermoplastic and replace everything with thermoplastic. So it's a pretty significant jump in cost. The paint will will last several years before you need to redo it again. One of the things we had requested at the time pricing was being obtained from the three contractors was to also include the reflectors in the along the lines. Um, there are some places within Pelican that have reflectors along the pavement marking lines, and there are many other places that do not. So we would be adding the reflectors along with the paint that has the glass beads for this price of about $40,000 plus. I think the thermoplastic is a great a great product, but it really is a great product on new pavement. Not such a great product on old pavement that is has its own issues as far as service life. So I would not opt for the thermoplastic at this point.
And truthfully, I really wasn't looking at the thermoplastic. I was thinking about the reflectors. And so
Yeah.
those will be, the missing ones will be replaced at the same time that you paint.
Yes, we'll be, yes, but I guess that's one way to look at it. I would say we will be adding, we will be adding a lot of reflectors along the lines.
Yeah.
And yeah, filling in the gaps where they don't exist today. And that would help so that 3 years from now, if the white paint or the edge lines are faded, the reflectors will still be helpful, particularly at night for drivers to be sure they're in the appropriate lanes.
Thank you.
And Dean, but this would not include, there are also reflectors that are not on the painted stripes. Those would not be included, I assume.
They're not supposed to be actually on the painted stripe. They are really adjacent to the painted stripe.
So this would cover all of those.
Yes, yes.
Okay. I think we're in agreement that we need, that probably those lines need to be done. Now the question, I guess one of the questions is, do we do it all at once or a little at a time? And my feeling is we ought to get it done.
Well, there's a proposal on the table, I think,
Yeah.
and been seconded, so I guess it's up for a vote.
Are we gonna wait for the bike line?
And I think so we-
Yeah, we wanna wait.
So we know what we're
doing.
doing.
To find out before we start painting lines.
So if we paint these lines, we're gonna have to pay a contractor to come pick the lines up when we decide what the bike lane is. I think this is premature.
This is Peggy, and I would agree, we need to wait until we find out what's happening with the bike lanes before we move forward.
So it needs to be done, but I think we should wait.
think we have a motion on the table to post. Right?
Yep,
Correct.
and you seconded it.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay.
Aye.
So just to be clear, we're postponing it pending the results of Tetra Tech's field study for bike lane conversion to make sure that we only do it once and that we do it right.
Do it correctly.
Okay.
Correct.
All right, there are no other items on the agenda left, so like anybody who was here to speak, so if we could go back up to the budget line, I think that's all we have left, and then we just have to set our next agenda, and then if John doesn't join, we still need to pick a date for the workshop to talk
Yeah.
about the PPA.
I think we should
CPCA.
email John and find out what date's gonna work for him,
Okay,
and then we
we can
go
send
ahead
it to the group and we can have you guys reply that
email
way.
all of
Can
us
we-
Yeah.
together, we can
Yeah.
respond. So
Okay, so I have some new sheets to share. You guys are the first ones to see these besides Chelsea and I and Infomark, so. Start. Actually, we should probably go, how do we got here? Go to here. All right. This should be look pretty familiar to what you guys saw the last time. I haven't made any changes, any
Certainly
significant
not.
changes.
Not the same as what we.
I know. So, it's a big sheet. And then this. There, okay. So, these numbers at the top I did not have last time. These are the numbers that are supplied by, Infomark, and it's calculated based on the bottom half of the sheet. So they've filled all of this in at the top for us here. These, as we discussed the last time, the administrative services, those are the costs that you share, your 14% of the administrative and operational costs that it takes for us to operate the district as a whole. So that's what you're seeing under there, and then the operational administrative.
Before you go. Back to the. Revenues.
Yep. Those are automatically calculated based on the numbers in the bottom part.
I understand that, but why do we have a budget variance? Revenue should,
It's this year, it's 24 versus 23.
okay, the variance is not to the budget, it's 24.
It's
versus
comparing this, the proposed to
24
the
versus
current.
23.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. Again, so, okay, so the administrative services, this is all your 14% of all of the things that you pay to help run the district.
There's nothing we can do.
Correct. I do my best to keep them low. We try to operate as minimally as we can. So this is where the changes are for this year now. So, we did not have the safety and security broken out, on the budget this last year. Those costs were still covered with the exception of the, security services contract. They were all included under what we paid in the O&M reimbursement line. I would like to bring something up, especially in light of of the discussions that have, happened regarding Wiser and their expectations for what they perform in your community and what the district's interests are as far as having them there. So, we could, I talked to Bob about this, and Chelsea and I both talked to Ms. Bob Geppert about this, and he was on board with it. So, what we're proposing is that we remove the security contract completely from the district side. I believe Jen is working on getting a proposal from them to cover like the town center and them going up to people's houses and all the things that you want them to do. So this would just cover the gate access portion of it. It would just shift over to the HOA, and the Wiser would be completely under the control of Pelican. Cause well, let me finish. Part of the reason why we're proposing that is the district only has roads there, which are public, which we cannot restrict access to. So from the district standpoint, there's nothing in there that's under the Wiser contract that the district would benefit from. it strictly benefits the residents of Pelican Preserve. So that would be one thing that the safety and security group would not have to oversee as part of their duties. Everything underneath that would stay there. They would just be responsible for the rest of those items in the budget. And that way you guys could go back to where, when we were working through all of those post orders and all of the things that I know as a community you would like them to do, you'd be able to just have the one contract with Wiser to cover what you want them to do inside of your community, which is how all the other communities handle their security contracts. I don't know why this one is different. But that was something that we proposed, which would immediately remove $420,000 from your budget. And that our
And
current
then-
contract
then
is good
they'll
until
have to
the.
Go to KW to manage.
They already are, Ken. They're involved. They're already involved. They would just take it out more because that way you could put the town center would be included, the RV center would be included, which it's not right now. So those are all part of Pelicans, like things that benefit the people in your community, but not the district. So they're not included in our contract. So instead of having two contracts, one where we basically man gates to monitor people coming in on roads that we can't restrict them from driving on. um, it would just shift the whole security contract over it and you guys could do whatever you wanted. I mean, it's, except keep the people off the streets. You can't do that unless you take your roads back. So, but that would remove the $420,000. That would remove safety and security from, you could participate with Jen, and KW as far as like on behalf of the community. But as far as the district, we really don't have anything that requires a security contract inside of Pelican Preserve. So I would remove that and it would leave the remaining items under the safety and security budget for the safety and security work group to oversee.
So, let me see if I understand you correctly. District wants to, get out of any involvement with the security contract
Correct.
and turn it over to the master board.
Yes.
Have they agreed to it?
Not yet. This is just a proposal. We wanted to
Proposal,
bounce it off you first. This is the first time it's been talked about outside of our office.
And then the second part Nancy wants to involve is to take all the subcommittees and put those under the master board. Is that right?
That's one
That's
option.
one of the options. That's one of the options.
I'm not proposing that. I'm proposing everything else would stay status quo and we would just remove the security contract from the district and move that over so that you guys can have all of those things that you're already expecting Wiser to do or what you would like Wiser to do, but aren't part of the contract and are things that I think you're working on negotiating a contract with them already to do those services.
Jen Lewis with KW. I do have a meeting with Wiser Monday at 3 o'clock just to talk about a supplemental contract for the town center portions to maybe add in some of the patrol, concierge service, if you will, for some of the things that we've been taking out of the post orders.
And like monitoring the cameras in the RV center, that's not something the district should be paying.
Yeah, they're
for.
not even, yeah. So monitoring the cameras in our RV and boat storage lot, they can't even actually patrol that currently. So I am talking to them about those things on Monday as a supplemental contract anyway. So
It would just be taking on the gatehouse portion.
just taking out the gatehouse portion.
So Laura, at least at this point, we leave the 420 in here. Is that right?
Yes, because we're setting the high water mark at this point, so I would not take it out until we decide for sure what we're gonna do. It would have to come out before we actually adopt the budget in August, but because we can't take the numbers back up, I would leave it in there for now.
Yeah.
And then we would have those discussions based on what you want to do, and then we would adjust it accordingly, or not.
Need a motion on this?
It's just that's something I figured you
Sure.
may want to discuss. So, I mean, I think that it's kind of a win-win because the district really doesn't have anything that they need to have security on. And you guys as Pelican would like to do a lot more with Wiser. And I think that gives you back the control of that Wiser contract to have them do what you want them to do inside your community.
Is John Griega on the line yet?
He is not. I've been watching. And this is not something that you have to decide right now. I'm just proposing it. And like Phil had said, at this point, the 420,000 will stay in there
Stays in the.
for, for them to adopt it or approve it. And then, it would just have to be finalized before we actually have the public hearing and adopt the final budget in August. So we would have a couple of months to talk about it. I just wanted to bring it up and kind of get it churning and have you guys think about it. Cause I know there was some concerns on behalf of the Safety and Security Committee as far as like all the extra things they were worried that they were gonna be taking on. But it really isn't going to change, cause right now they're working with Jen for these items. They would just come to the district. for the rest of the items. That's the only thing that changes. So instead of them going to Jen and say, hey, we need, there's a sign down, they would call the district and say, hey, there's a sign down. So that's really the only thing that will change from that side of it. But in discussions, I mean, with just looking at things in general and trying to figure out ways to better allocate things and give you guys the flexibility to have what you want to have in your community for your residents and your community assets, and trying to separate the district more, that we only oversee the district side of things. So that's kind of where that came from.
Carol has a. Randy, you?
Yeah, Carol?
Carol Pancaw. What about the gatehouse itself?
The
Are
gatehouse would
those
remain,
numbers still in there?
the gatehouse would stay in there. If you see that's still down here, the utilities are still there, and the supplies and passes obviously would pass to go with the contract. But the building is still a district asset, so that would still be ours and stay there. So we just wouldn't be paying to man the gatehouse.
So
none of
we'd be
those-
paying all, the GSCDD would be paying all the expenses for the gatehouse itself to exist,
Yes, because that's still our
but
asset.
not to person it in
Correct.
any way.
Correct.
Okay, interesting. Thank you.
And if we did that, looking at these numbers, it's the 420 that would come out.
Plus I think there might be some residual down, like the passes down here would be,
yeah.
that would go away.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be something we could work, Carol, your question. I mean, we
Or-
could maybe work
or,
that into the O and M, that the maintenance would fall to the,
Yep,
you know,
okay.
to the.
Has
PPCA.
this been discussed with the
So-
PPCA?
This is the first time we've talked about this, so no.
All right, so their budget's gonna go up by 420,000. So that's a major issue. Since I'm on the finance committee, I know that's a major issue.
Well, and of course it would have
Yeah, but the-
the assessments.
Well, the
would have to
assessment,
fit.
but people don't understand that.
I
mean,
understand that.
yeah,
And
yeah,
so,
yeah.
so for transmitting that information.
They're gonna pay it one way or another, but they
Yeah,
don't
the
understand
transfer-
that it's a tax thing. Yeah,
will go
but
up,
now
yeah.
they're gonna see maybe their fees go up. And that is a major concern too.
Yep.
So it's just throwing it out there.
Taxes you can deduct.
Technically not the non-ad valorem, you can't, which is what this is.
So Jen, you say there has been some preliminary discussion of this? No, there hasn't.
Well, I mean, there's been discussion about doing an addendum.
Not the whole
right?
board.
Yeah.
Not the whole board, right? Okay.
So I said, this is the first time this has been discussed. We literally talked about it. What's Tuesday was the first
Okay.
time we talked about it. So this is very new. I mean, Jen didn't, I blindsided her with this, so she didn't even know. So,
Okay. Can we,
so outside of that, and then if you decide to move in that direction, for now, we're leaving everything there again because we're setting the high water mark. So, those items would remain in the budget that we present to the Board of Supervisors next week, for them to approve. Based on what we decide from there, it'll stay, go down, disappear. It just can't go up. These were things that I either got from KW or from the Safety and Security Work Group. Again, these numbers shouldn't be a surprise. They're the same ones that were in there last month. I think the only thing that's new is the holiday lighting, because I guess that used to be paid through the O and M before, and we're just moving it over here. So it was already in your budget. It was just buried in the O and M line and wasn't broken out separately. So,
If that 420 comes out, how does that affect the rest of it?
well, it would actually be. I gotta do this so I can see what I'm typing.
And while you're doing that, Nancy, is this something that we should maybe include in the meeting, the workshop? Because it's gonna require some discussions, that's for sure.
say the word?
Perhaps, perhaps
No,
because
the workshop for, we're talking about the,
special meeting. and-
yeah, the
This
work.
needs to have a
work
special
group.
meeting.
The entire O and M agreement is being looked at right now. And there are things that, as we separate CDD taking care of their assets, Pelican Preserve taking care of their assets, things will change. And we're waiting on the maps that Tony is doing. We have some preliminary ones, but not a full set. And the security issue, we have talked about having a supplemental contract with them. but we have not talked about taking it over in its entirety. Even if taxes go down, which I know is never a guarantee, but even if taxes go down, if our fees go up, our
Yeah.
board's gonna be on the hook. It
That's-
doesn't
that's
matter
what I'm
how we
concerned
explain
about.
it or what we say. We will be on the hook for that. So, I don't know. And I
But-
think we need to work that through with other board members and KW.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if you have some discussions with your other board and you come to some sort of a, not necessarily a decision, but you've got some ideas about things, maybe we ought to include that in the workshop when we get together on the work group situation.
Yeah, we're gonna be a little bit challenged with who can be here. that
Yeah,
day, so,
yeah.
But we'll figure it out. It might be something to include, be a secondary
No,
topic.
we've got some unassigned reserves. We can get you some plane tickets back.
Just for a day. No.
Yeah, thank you.
So right now, we don't have any budget items for any bridge inspections or maintenance on any bridges.
It would be, bridges would be covered under roads. They're part of the roads. They're not a separate line item.
We're
I know you-
supposed to be determining who owns the bridges.
We
We
do,
already know who owns the roads.
yeah, we do, and they're part of the road. So
So
they're
they're part of
ours.
the road.
Yes, they're considered part of the road.
So do we have bridge inspections and bridge maintenance?
We do not have them as a separate line item. Again, they're part of the road. So that would be part of the roadway maintenance is the bridges.
So who does the bridge inspections?
Nobody's done them yet, as far as I know. So that would be something that
We're
we'd have to
gonna
coordinate
wait
with our
till they
public.
fail?
No, but I mean, that would be something that we coordinate through the Public Works Department.
Did you figure out what it's gonna do to our overall?
Oh, you
budget?
didn't, I didn't even show you the preliminary one, so I didn't take them off yet.
Okay,
You didn't take.
But I'm ready to do that whenever you would like to. I figure let's look through this first. Then we'll look at the tables the way it stands, and I can come back, make the changes, and I'll show you what it is.
all right, great, thank you.
So,
Laura, this is Peggy.
yeah,
You are not saying that this year, this is what the CDD is telling us to do, is to take it out?
no, not at all. It's just we're presenting it as an option. I mean, it's something that we were discussing because we're starting to look at things that the district is in kind of, I guess, for lack of a better way to say it, involved in that are truly not benefiting the district or any of the district assets. And this was
And
one
I
of those
understood
things.
that. I just wanted to make clear that you are not saying that this year the change has to happen.
No, not at all, not at
Okay,
all. I
all
mean,
right.
we would like that to happen, but especially with the other contract going in place, it just makes more sense there for there just to be one because they're gonna have to figure out how to divide labor and all of those other things too. So it's gonna get messy and it's already very gray and it's gonna get even worse. So we're not saying you have to do it. It's just,
Okay,
it's
thank you.
just suggestion. So landscaping. I said the only thing that changed was this down here. I did add a little bit because I'm not sure where the Ameriscape contract is gonna come in. I just padded it by 5%. That's why it's went up. It may not. We'll see. We'll be negotiating that soon because I think it comes up at the end of September. But again, high water mark, so I'd rather leave it high and then we can.
I thought.
No, it has to go out to bid. And so it's possible that when the bids come back, I don't think there's an auto renew in this one. We extended it. Normally it went through the end of March and we asked them to hold their pricing through the end of September so that it would align with our fiscal year. And it will have to go back out for bid. So that's why I just cautionary, again, high water mark. We may learn more between now and August and it could come out. But I want to make sure that I would rather be conservative and put in a little extra. So, okay. Good. And then I know you weren't happy about the 25,000, but it was actually being paid through the O&M line before, so we were paying for it. It just was hidden. It was tucked away and we broke it out for the lighting. So that would be your lights around your monuments and all your lighting that you do inside the community for holiday, for Christmas. The lake, the waterway, this is all from Doug. This all is in here, so Peggy's probably seen this 1,000 times. And then down, this one, oh, I did add this. It is added in. I didn't update my note. Sorry. There is, I got a quote of $93,000, which is the same as this year. from KW to put in for their fees. This note didn't get updated, but the dollar amount did. So that's why it's 128,000.
So why,
Why is it hundred and twenty-eight and the quote was 93?
Plus 35 for irrigation. There's $35,000
Oh,
in
okay.
irrigation costs. So it'd be $93,000 in administration and $35 for irrigation. So that's where the 128 comes from.
but we pulled all that money away from,
We did not take the irrigation piece out. That's still there. So that's another thing that we can discuss. That's why we're having having these discussions. So there is a possibility that we could remove the irrigation piece as well and move that up underneath the landscaping.
I'm talking about all the,
Oh, you're talking about the admin fee? I understand. My job is to request the dollar amount from KW and that was the dollar amount I was given. So. I'm not saying I agree with it. I'm just putting in what I was given.
What dollar amount are we talking about?
$93,000.
Oh, the 93.
Yes.
so they're managing less money and we're still paying them more
That's the same as we're paying them this year.
and they're managing less money.
I'm not saying I agree or disagree. I just put in what I was given.
Yeah,
So,
Marty, one of the things I think we want to do here is, that's probably something we want to adjust, but for the high watermark budget that we're looking at, probably makes sense to leave it in.
yeah, that's what I was gonna, and then we
And
can,
then-
that'll
and
be
then- and
negotiated
then
as part of the O and M
We can
agreement.
adjust it down.
Yeah,
when-
it'll be,
When we
that'll-
get to the final budget.
and that'll be negotiated as part of the O and M agreement.
And also, I think we want to put capital reserve in. And the recommended in the study was less than $200,000, but I think it behooves us to put 1,000 in.
Right now it's 0, so that's what I needed to ask you about as
Yeah.
well, because I didn't get a firm number. So that amount needs to be plugged in as well.
You know, I think we should put 200,000 in there. I forget what the number, what did it come out in the study?
It is this other sheet, just a minute.
Yeah, it's, that you had in there in the package we got, but we didn't get this stuff.
Well, I got that thing that I just showed you. I
Yeah.
got that at 11 o'clock this
Right,
morning.
right.
So
Yeah.
that's why it's not in your packet.
I understand.
You're the first people to see it. So anybody who's here, you're the first people to see this. That's not for me and Chelsea. Your capital reserve study for Pelican was, they actually recommended 160,000.
That's right.
So, and I think you had talked about putting in the 200 and I wasn't sure, so I can absolutely plug that in.
I think at least certainly for the high water.
See, normally what you do is put the 200 in, so,
I think.
okay,
the high
I can-
water
I can-
I
mark-
would agree with the 200.
okay. All right. All right, now you're for, that's the end of your sheet. So are you ready to see the effect? Drum roll? No, I'm just kidding. I gotta get to the right page here. I think it's this one. I'll blow it up for you. It automatically shrinks it back down when I save it. So, with everything in the way it is, that including the security contract, you're looking at, about a 9.7% increase for multifamily and 9.6% for single family. Or these are the dollar amounts here, 93.35 or $105 for a single family. So I can take those other numbers out. So let me go that. So let's take out security and then this as well.
What was the shirt? Percent?
And then
Speed.
now it actually goes down if we take off
We
this.
could be heroes, but.
You could take the security contract off and the passes.
The board would all be shot.
So again, again, we're setting the high water mark, so I recommend leaving it in there because if you don't put it in there and the contract stays, then you're going to have to pull it from your reserves.
yeah.
So,
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
Oh,
So just to show you what an effect, it takes it down 15%. I mean, because you're at plus 10 to minus 5, so it's pretty.
So these are
significant.
the allocation, the numbers are from Stephen, is that right?
The table that I just showed,
Yeah.
you, those are based on, this spreadsheet came from Steven and it includes all of Russ's numbers for the assessment, yes.
Mhm.
Yep. Any questions?
Laura, how does that compare to last year?
It's, the difference is for a multifamily, it'd be 93, it's on the screen here, I don't know if you can see it. So this would have been
No,
last year.
I meant how much did we raise it last year percent wise? From
Um,
We've got that
22 to
about
23.
Let me look. I don't know. Hang on. I want to say it
Five,
was around like 3 or 4%.
3 or 4%.
Just off the top of my head, but don't quote me on that. Let me find it.
Okay.
And will this committee have, input into what this final change is going to be?
Oh,
Absolutely.
yes,
Yeah,
this
it's
is-
your
this is
budget.
us.
This is your budget.
This is our budget.
So right now, we're just setting the high water mark. And so you have between next Thursday, when the board approves the budget, until your August meeting will be the last time you'll be able to make any changes. So you'll have July and August, so 2 months of meetings, unless you decide to have some special meetings in between to continue the discussions to make any of your changes. So this will go to public hearing. We normally do it at our second meeting in August, which would be the 17th. And that's when it will be adopted, and that's when it's done, set in stone. So the Board of Supervisors can always make changes to it. They don't normally touch your budget. Whatever you guys suggest is what they put in, unless there's something really blatant that they disagree with. But the whole time I've been doing this, I have never seen them change your budget, because you guys, that your Pelican, it
Yep.
affects only Pelican. And the only way it might change is if on some of those shared administrative costs, if those would fluctuate a little bit, that'll have a small impact. But I mean, usually it's like 0.1%, not much. So.
Yeah, it'll be our choice. I mean, unless they change, they always accepted the numbers that we've given them.
Yeah, they've never questioned. They always ask, well, what does PPAC?
Laura, I guess we ought to look at the CIP as well, although I
Yep,
don't.
let me pull that out. Let me answer Peggy's question quick, and then I will. It was, you guys are down a little farther. Wait, here it is. So last year. Yeah, 8 and 7, so it's actually pretty similar to last year, if you leave everything as is. I mean, you guys normally stay about roughly this, I mean, it pretty much stays about the same.
The 8 and
so.
7, that was the high watermark budget.
No, this is the final budget for fiscal 23. So you actually ended up at 8.32 for single family and 7.38 for multifamily. Oh wait, gateway, wrong one. I'm like, wait, that's not right. Here it is. Yeah, I'm like, that didn't look right. Here we go.
It didn't.
You
right.
are,
I didn't think we raised.
you're here. Right? Golf course, Pelican, yes. Golf course, you, right here, it went up 9.6 for multi and 2.3 for single. I'm like, I saw Stony Brook, like, that's not right. This is 2. So that was last year's. I think some of what contributed to that is C5 got platted last year, so that really changed a lot.
Mhm.
So that was new. You can see down here, there's one up almost 3,000%. Because they're platted now.
Also brought. This from the. And implemented it.
Well,
this year.
Carol, that wouldn't have mattered, because it was just, we broke them out from being on one line to being on many lines. So it wouldn't have made any difference in the assessment. They were still being accounted for, just in a different way. They would still have been on the tax bill. What we did is we just broke them out from one line to being able to,
But
track them separately.
this is,
it just showed up separately.
Shifted them up to. the
Correct.
landscape.
Same thing that we did with the safety and security. It just moved from the O and M line to its own line. So that wouldn't have affected the taxes unless you decided to increase some of those items. So.
but this is the total number. This is not the assessed number, right?
I'm not sure what you're asking.
I'm asking how much the individual households saw in their change in their assessment. Yes, I was looking for this one. It's 5.4 and 2.3. I didn't remember the 9.6. That didn't look right to me. So what we raised it last year was 5.4% and 2.3%. That's what's comparable to the 9, what we're looking at right now.
So it's about half
Yeah,
for multifamily.
but I mean, that's the same charge. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
And to Peggy's question.
Right.
That's how much we changed it last year.
Yeah, correct. 5.4 multifamily and
Right.
2.3 for single versus 9.7 and 9.6.
Okay. Can we look at the CIP?
Absolutely. I get to yours. Pelican. stuff you want to see is up here. So, the district building this is covered by the bond. Why does this say capital? Ugh, I straightened this out. Okay, I'll fix that. That's just a naming thing. It's actually green. It's a bond. So these are some expenses for the district as a whole. We are asking to get Motorola. This is like your share of some of these expenses. So those would have showed up in the top part of your budget. The Motorola radios for us, like during the hurricane, we actually rented them and they were very expensive to rent. They're actually less expensive to buy. And we would have our own frequencies, so we'd be able to communicate a lot better. So these are things that you can't say, no, we're not gonna do that because it's already included in your budget. The stuff you can control starts here underneath the waterway management. The weirs are a new project and obviously you aren't gonna have to worry about those for a while because we're taking care of that right now. So these are all things that I got from the ponds committee to do these additional repairs here. So there's these pond bank repairs. This just says ponds. Stormwater system and then the interconnect pipe repair. So there's what, $225,000 in capital expenses that they want added into the budget for next year. And then here's your bridges line. There's nothing on it right now because they're 40 years and they're not that old. So we didn't put anything in there for them yet as far as replacing. This is not repairs or maintenance. But they have a 40-year life. So
we're halfway.
yep. So this is up to you guys. If you want to start funding for them now, you can. This again is not for maintenance. This is not for inspections. This is to replace them when it comes time. So this is capital.
Well, wouldn't we need like our district engineer to make a recommendation on type of maintenance? And
But maintenance doesn't get covered under here. This is capital.
I understand that, but wouldn't we need our district engineer to provide some recommendations as to what we should be looking at, what we should be budgeting for long term? Does he recommend doing some maintenance every 10 years till we get to the 40-year?
But again, that's maintenance, not capital. So this is capital. That would be covered under the other sheet that we were looking at.
Okay, so what if the district engineer says it's not a 40-year life, it's only a 30?
Right.
That would be,
Then you would deal with that here. Yes. So I mean, it's up to you guys if you want to
we-
start funding it now, or if you don't, right now, there's
I'd like
nothing
a
put in
district
there.
engineer report, his recommendations, purchase.
So are you asking staff to work with Tetra Tech to get a task authorization or for what it would
Yes.
cost to have that? That needs to come from the committee.
I think we would need that.
Well, except it seems to me that the people who did the capital reserve study at least supposedly took that into account. Is that right?
No,
Correct.
they did not address any of the bridges in that capital, in that report. None of the bridges were addressed in that report.
I think they considered them as part of the roads.
Aren't bridges supposed to have a 50-year lifetime? I've heard that from other engineers.
I am not an engineer, so I don't know. I do numbers.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not a civil engineer.
I mean,
Yeah.
if PPAC would like me to get a task authorization from a quote from
I think
Tetra Tech
we-
to do that, then that's fine, but that direction needs to come from you, all of you, and not just one person.
I think we need to have some technical report on the bridges and what we should do, because the last report we got, I looked for it specifically, did not address anything about bridges.
I will check to see if they've already done something.
Laura, John's online too.
Okay, I have him hidden behind my folder. Oh, there he is. Yep, John's online now, so if you want to make a motion and a vote for him to participate remotely due to extenuating circumstances.
So moved.
I second.
All in favor?
Uh,
Hi, John. You're muted. You're muted. John, you're muted. I can unmute him, I think I can't unmute you, I can only mute you, so you'll have to unmute yourself. So I guess I'm not sure where we stand on the bridge thing.
Hmm?
I'm not sure where we stand on the bridge thing. Would you like me to go back to look to see if there was anything done on the bridges or are you
There was nothing in their report
not in the most recent one, but there may have done something in the past. That's why I'm asking.
about the past.
Sure,
Only the
could you
current.
please?
Okay, I will report that back. All right, moving on. Curbs and gutters, again, they're not recommending putting anything in there based on the most recent capital reserve study. The ponds group actually has the downspout initiative
Yeah.
in there. Yep, and then the entrance monuments, because they're taking care of the fountains and those types of things, so they had those added in here, but again, you can see there's, the fountains don't have, or I mean, the monuments don't have an expense until this year, till 2026.
And we're in discussion with the landscape on whether or not they are going to be taking over some of that or not.
Okay, because they're
Yeah.
all lumped together under roadway, landscape, and irrigation, so.
Yeah, it's confused.
Okay. The monuments, you have 39 of them. It's putting away a little bit or each year to kind of work your way around and work on those. Same with the lighting, doing a little bit each year. There is some money in here, $7,000 to do some work at the gatehouse, as well as $10,000 to do some improvements with the lighting at the gatehouse, since that is a district asset. General landscaping, design and improvements, $285,000 to do some works on your roads. Here is your roadway striping. If you end up waiting until after October, it'll be already in your budget for next year. And then there's another 20,000 for signs, 32,000 in addition to the existing streetlight. This would be above and beyond that for streetlights, 75 for sidewalks, and then 38,500 for the speed calming devices.
Proposal that we currently voted to postpone greater than the 40,000.
Carry forward, it's already allotted, that's already accounted for. This is in addition to that poll. Same with the striping. This would be in addition to that. If you don't want to carry it forward from your reserves, then you would have the money in there for next year. So depends on how you want to handle
Well,
it.
that proposal that we currently have agreed to postpone is greater than that 40,000.
It wasn't.
No, that's the number.
Yeah,
That is the number.
yeah. It was like 38,000
Very
something. We rounded it up to 40. Yeah.
right.
So that's
So
it.
Laura, you're saying if we hold off on the road striping, we can take it out of the capital reserve next year?
Well, it wouldn't come out of capital reserves. It would actually be a capital item. So this would,
Capital item,
this is
okay.
not a reserve. This is actually a line on, it would be a line on your budget. In
Okay,
your capital budget. So that would be something you could just spend. You wouldn't have to make a transfer. All of these things will show up on your, I'll show it to you, it's right here. And I know I'll blow it up. It's tiny. It reverts back to like 70% every time I close it. Okay, so they're here. So here's the 25 for the ponds and all those things that I just
Yeah.
showed you on the other sheet are on this page. And you can see right here's your 40,000 for the road striping. So those things
Okay.
are they're already in here. So these would be your capital expenditures then for next year.
all right. I
And
see that.
again, we're setting the high water mark. So if you're gonna chisel away at stuff, I recommend at least leaving it in there for now, for June, and then we can work on it in July and August to bring it down or keep it the same, whatever you decide to do. It's your budget. So. Any questions? Okay. That's all I have. Now that John is online, John, you missed, there was a request, and I know you're still, you're not muted anymore. There was a request to have a special workshop with, some members of PPCA to discuss, the options of possibly moving the subcommittees under PPCA. So we could either move everything under PPCA.
Let's call them organizational options because there are four.
Yes, there's
different possible
to discuss options, organizational options. There's been a request to have that done in the next couple of weeks.
Has a date been set?
No, that's why we were waiting for you
Oh,
to
we're
join. so
waiting
we
for
could do
you
that.
to tell us when you can be available and chair that meeting.
Just tell me, I'll try to be available online.
Okay, well,
Okay,
my suggestion is that we try and do it in the week of the 18th. Does that make sense to people?
I'm just gonna let you know, I am on PTO until the 22nd that week. I'm off the Friday, the 16th,
Okay.
and I don't come back until the 22nd, which is that Thursday, which would be 2 weeks from today.
So when do you leave?
I leave the 16th. Next week is not good. We cannot do it next week. That I will not be able to focus and have productive conversations.
Okay, so
I'm
the
just
week
gonna
of
be
the
honest.
12th is no good for you.
The week of the 12th is not good for me. I have a budget workshop with the board and a meeting next week with
Okay.
them, so
How about the week of the 19th? When is your availability?
I will be available that Thursday and Friday, the 22nd and 23rd.
Let's look
Preferably
at the
not on Friday.
22nd.
Yeah, preferably not Friday. So the 22nd in the afternoon? That's PPCA board meeting? Okay. You have it in the afternoon? Friday?
It doesn't work. 22nd doesn't work for me.
Can we do it in the morning on Friday?
I cannot do it in the morning on Friday.
I'm not available that week.
Okay.
So let's-
22nd doesn't work for me either.
Okay, let's link it.
Wait,
in
is
the-
that, that's a
can we-
Thursday?
Next,
Thursday.
22nd's already off the table because that's a PPCA meeting.
Yeah.
So the week of the 26th?
the week of the 26th, how about the 26th or the 27th? Does that work for people?
Nancy, when are you-
Monday or Tuesday works for me.
They works.
Uh, Depending on the time, 26th is safety and security work group.
Yeah,
at
so the
10 o'clock.
afternoon is open, so we could do it in the afternoon on Monday. You have a busy day, so will I, so.
On
That would work
Monday
for me.
Afternoon,
In the afternoon.
afternoon on
I
the
could probably make it work.
26th.
Sure.
Is that a Tuesday?
It's a Monday, John, Monday
That's
the
fine.
26th.
That work?
Monday, the 26th?
You want to try 1 o'clock? That gives us quite a bit of time to have some discussion.
Hmm.
That work for everybody? 1 o'clock on June 26th?
Come online.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, we're not voting, so that's fine. It's just a workshop.
Just, okay.
Yeah, so there won't be any voting, so we don't need to have a quorum.
Okay.
A physical quorum.
Yeah.
At 1 PM, is that what it is?
Yes.
1
On the
PM, June
26th.
26th.
Right,
We'll call it an operational organizational discussion.
right.
I'll narrow it down. Trying to sound smart. Don't knock it. All right.
That will be here.
That will be here. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it can be here. Let me double check. Normally Mondays aren't a big deal in this, but I shouldn't speak for that. Let me check. There's a meeting in here at 6:30 that evening, so we should be fine. Otherwise, the rest of the day is open.
So we have to finish by 6:30.
I hope we finish way before that. That's why I'm hoping to start at 1 so I can be out of here by 4:30.
Not till 6:30.
So Monday, June 26th, 1 o'clock, organizational discussion in the district boardroom.
Yep.
Okay, the only other item that is on the agenda that we have not talked about yet is the next meeting agenda. I believe we will be bringing back the bike lane improvements because, the safety and security will have been able to meet and discuss it by then. So, and obviously budgets are gonna be discussion. We'll just have it on there. If you guys say, nope, nothing to talk about, then we won't, but I'll make sure that gets on there too. That'll be the 13th. July 13th will be the next PPAC meeting. That's the second Thursday. Is there anything else that you would like to have on your agenda for next time? This doesn't mean you don't have to submit the items. It's just that I can let Georgia know that they're coming. That you can think of.
Will there be something that maybe comes out of the meeting, the workshop?
I'll
meeting?
put a follow-up to the workshop.
Yeah.
And then just a follow-up on all active projects.
Sorry, say that again, please, Peggy.
And follow up on all active projects, just so that we don't lose sight of what we're working on.
Yep.
Project status, got it.
Yep.
All right,
And, about the wall.
I got the bridge on the rest. I'm gonna call you Bridge or Bridger from now on, okay?
Well,
Marty Bridges.
when they fail catastrophic.
I completely understand. No, I have a note I will bring back to you guys. I have a note to check to see if Tetra Tech has done a study on the bridges, and I'll bring that back.
Right.
I think we probably need to start working on the budget.
I have that already.
You got that in there?
Yeah, so items 7B and 7C from this agenda
Yeah,
will be brought back next month.
okay, yeah.
As in addition to the discussion about the workshop, the project status, and the bridge findings.
Very good.
Anything else?
It's been some time since we had any subcommittee updates. We have anything from landscaping or ponds?
I know from a pond standpoint, we are at the final end of the Weir project, and they're just working on landscaping. They were supposed to have a meeting on Monday this week. I haven't heard what final requests the community has to tuck that in and get that done. We are looking at harvesting Lake 34, as it is overgrown again, our problem child lake. And otherwise, things are pretty much going along as planned.
I would ask that if you have a update that you want to give at the meeting, please get it to Georgia so we can put it on the agenda.
Okay.
There's a form to fill out.
Yes, there is.
Mark Eversman, 10540 Bella Vista, Chair of the Landscaping Subcommittee. We have done our first cut through Pelican. I think you've noticed a few new trees, bushes, things like that. That was the first cut. We are going to meet next, not this Friday, but the following Friday, to formulate what we hope will be the second cut, which will be bigger than the first cut. We want to be aggressive on the second one. Due to our attorney's advice, it will be a pantomime meeting. We are not allowed to discuss anything as we drive through Pelican. We will have a meeting following our drive through Pelican to discuss what we all saw. So that is an interesting interpretation by our attorney for sunshine laws, that you cannot discuss landscaping while standing outside.
Hence the need for having this organizational discussion.
Is this, when you say our attorney, is it
Tony.
yours? Tony, not Steve.
Tony.
The district's corporate counsel.
So we will do that on Friday, and hopefully we will get the proposal out for bid in July with installation late July, early August, so we still hit the rainy season, which the plants appreciate. But we're making progress, and we hope to make a lot more yet this summer. Any questions?
I had a question. That large tree that was in front of the, the circular in the front of the,
Yep.
and what, why was that removed? and
It had
replaced?
Ganoderma, which is deadly.
Oh.
So it was just a matter of when that tree was gonna die, probably within a year. So we had it removed as quickly as we could because it can spread to other trees. It was a Ganoderma disease specific to hardwoods, where a couple of the big palms that have been taken out had Ganoderma specifically to palm trees. So you find that, you try and remove it as quickly as possible, make less chance that it will spread to others. You cannot replace it with another hardwood. And again, if you have a palm tree that has Ganoderma specifically to palm trees, you can't put another palm tree in there for several years. So. Any other questions? Right, thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
Sit. Adjourn.
Ready to
You're in
adjourn?
charge.
Yeah, well,
You're in charge.
A motion to adjourn.
second.
Aye.
Right, so 4:08. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Gotta keep it moving along.
Question about that.